Hey everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Star Wars Minute Presents the Book of Boba Fett. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer, PeteTheRetailer.com. I was just going to say, I feel like, not that we dropped the ball, but I don't know. I feel like we should have a better name. Maybe by the end we'll have a better name than that. I mean, Star Wars Minute Presents the Book of Boba Fett is what it is, so that's fine. But, you know, the Mandalorian had a little punny ring to it, and
yeah,
I don't know.
Anyway, we'll go back and so if you're hearing this, we possibly have gone back and filled in our better name by now. So let's
probably not.
Let's hope. So anyway, let's get to book chapter 1 in the Book of Boba Fett. I guess they're called chapters, right?
Every day we write the book. We're not going to use that for our theme song because that'll get copyright yanked.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, chapter 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. Now,
so
do you remember what we predicted? Did we write those down on our weekend edition, StarWarsMinute.com/Patreon?
Mm-hmm.
We had a handful of predictions of things we were going to see, either not necessarily what we wanted to see, but we thought that we were going to see in this. And we should dig that up because it's definitely spent some time treading in. I don't know. Overall, let me say, I was worried that this was just going to be a nostalgia festival. You know, I like it when they break new ground in Star Wars. I like when they expand the universe. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they did a pretty good job of walking the line. There was some stuff that was like, okay, well, you don't have to show us how we got out of there. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I was expecting them to. Like, I personally would have loved if they left that off the table. Yeah, he got out. You don't have to show us how, you know, but fine. You're going to do it. That's fine. And
right.
minimal adherence to that, basically. So that's, I'm jumping ahead. But
yeah, let's do a quick little overview first, just so we can get our bearings.
Yeah.
There's kind of like two main stories going on at the same time, where it's the present, I guess, which is at the end of the events of the Mandalorian series,
right,
where Boba Fett has taken over Jabba's crime syndicate.
Yeah.
And then we're also flashing back to how he got out of the Sarlacc, et cetera, and sort of following.
Yeah, he's having
his progression.
Dreams. Or back to flashback to
back to Tatooine. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And so it's him sort of reestablishing himself as the new boss, and also him climbing up from having escaped from a Sarlacc's colon.
Right. Esophagus? So, I don't know. What is it a one piece digestive system there? I don't know. What
I don't have my visual dictionary handy. Yeah. I know the visual dictionary did have a sort of
cross-section
floor plan of the Sarlacc, so maybe we'll... But that did give you a point, because you did predict we would see the Sarlacc, and we did see it over briefly.
That was low. That was a gimme. That was like the ball was right on the edge of the cup there. I can just tap that. That was a tap in.
Is the Sarlacc dead, you think?
No.
You think he just escaped from it, and the Sarlacc's just like...
I don't know. Although it wasn't,
I shouldn't have eaten that.
Yeah. It wasn't flailing around and stuff when he got out. So
right.
And the Jawas seemed unafraid to just drive right up to it.
Oh, that's true.
So maybe it is. Or maybe it eats and then it hibernates or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, so going to... All right. So first off, let me back way up. It's a period of civil war. No, not that far. New face in the intro. Fennec Shan's mask is in the little Star Wars dee-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo kind of thing in the beginning.
Yeah, I couldn't tell who it was, but
I think it was Fennec Shand, right?
Yeah.
Because they're, part of it. Same way with Marvel, how they'll mix in the comic panels, they'll mix in some stuff related to the movie that you're about to see, or the show that you're about to see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think that was Fennec Shand in here.
Yeah. It seems a little bit of a jump to me, that she gets included in the roster of iconic
Just for
helmets.
this, you know what I mean? It's like
so I guess we'll have to see if she's permanently in the lineup, or if she's just a flavor for this particular show.
Right.
So
and then back to bed.
Back to bed.
The back to bed. Which I like that. We get the kind of atmospheric shots of Jabba's palace, and it's mostly empty. And then this other room in Jabba's palace, which we never saw. I don't know if you think that was Jabba's bedroom. At first, I thought they were. My head started spinning. I thought maybe it was the Vision's office from Solo, a Star Wars story now available on Blu-ray and digital. But I think it was just Jabba's bedroom, which is a weird, or some other room that Boba decided to use as his chamber.
Yeah, it probably has a lot of different rooms. I imagine you wouldn't. Well, I would say on the one hand, I can see you wouldn't want to sleep in Jabba's room because it must be gross. But on the other hand, I'm really impressed at how immaculate Jabba's palace is. Like,
because it's had years of Bib Fortuna just going through and being like, So
you think Bib Fortuna strikes you as like an OCD? I got to keep this place clean. Maybe he went through like a Marie Kondo kind of. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna keep the things that give me joy.
Right. Everything else gets fed to the Rancor.
Yeah. So if you'd come like a couple of months earlier, this place would have been a total dump. Again, going on the Jesse Pinkman theory,
right?
That like it seems I'm really impressed with Bib's, or maybe it's the monks who do it. Maybe the monks are the ones responsible for cleaning up the stuff. They're almost like Roombas, kind of scurrying around and just picking up whatever pipes. But
I think maybe this is Bib Fortuna's room, not because it's like upstairs, right? How would Jabba get upstairs?
Yeah, and we know Jabba sleeps behind a curtain in his main
sleep
palace.
in the living room. Like they sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
This is probably like Bib Fortuna's craft room. You know what I mean? He had his sewing projects and stuff up there, and it was so neatly kept that Boba was like, I'll sleep up there. Put the back to bed up there.
If you had to be roommates with any of the minions in Jabba's palace, like let's say Lando moves in, and
you say Lando moves in?
Like when Lando,
right.
When Lando's pretending to work, he gets a job.
He's not pretending. He got a job
that's
there.
That's true. He paid taxes and everything on that. I wonder who you would pick as if you had your druthers.
Right. Well, it's tempting to say Bib Fortuna, but he probably doesn't have a roommate. He's high enough up the chain. He gets a single. He's like an RA.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Hey guys, keep it down in here. I can hear you all the way down this hallway.
Quiet hours. I like that the Bib Fortuna turned into like a Dracula. So I'll think on that. I want probably a droid, right? Like 8D. They probably live together though, right? There's or
I picture just being like
housing.
Bender, where they just sleep in like a closet,
right?
Just kind of like a robot arms.
Then back inside the Sarlacc. So we get a flashback to inside the Sarlacc, and Boba Fett kind of wakes up for a second. He looks around and is like, oh no, should be record scratch. Yep, that's me. But you're wondering how I got here. And he looks around and he sees a stormtrooper, and that got me thinking, why would there be a stormtrooper in there?
I wondered that too. I was like, we don't see any storm, but don't forget, you're in there for 1,000 years.
Yeah, but he's at that. I mean, maybe is he in a? Maybe that. So Boba and the stormtrooper. Maybe they're in
the DJ morning crew. Boba and the stormtrooper.
Boba and the stormtrooper. Maybe they're in like an appendix or like a gallbladder of sorts. An appendix where a lot of people fall in there, they just get digested. But people with armor that needs a little bit extra work, like in the appendix is originally for digesting chicken bones or something, right? It's our appendix, human appendices.
Yeah, it's something we needed at one point, but now we don't need anymore.
Right,
we used to eat tougher things.
So maybe that the Sarlacc has a little separate digestive compartment that it sticks things that are covered in armor, things that have shells, essentially, that it needs more time to work on.
This is turning into like $1,000 pyramid. Things with armor, things with shells.
Stormtrooper, Boba Fett, hazelnut.
Things you can't digest.
Right. So that could also explain, he cut himself out because he's in this like digestive side pocket. That's not the main digestive tract. And also then that's why there's a stormtrooper in there. Yeah,
because if it was just the normal, like he's just in the regular digestive tract, you'd think you would see
like a dozen weak ways and like
like the guys who just fell in there a second ago. Snoot Pitkin. And even if he had swallowed stormtroopers, they would be farther down the they would be farther down the pike.
Exactly.
So yeah,
you'd be like looking at like using a telescope or like cutting a tree and counting the rings. You could look down and be like, oh, look at that. That was the battle of
I don't want to focus on missed opportunities, but I think it would have been cooler if it had been a more dissolved clone trooper uniform, because then you would have shown you how long that guy's been in there.
That's true.
And he'd be like, hi, you look familiar.
Hey, buddy.
Good to see a familiar face.
The
shooter.
Yes. Then he gets out, and it's I said I was worried it was going to be walking the line of it was going to tread too much in nostalgia and walk the line nicely, but I liked seeing the wrecked sail barge.
Yes, the Katana.
Okay,
is the name of that. Yeah, I liked it too.
And then that whole like everything seemed to.
Well, how long after the events of Return of the Jedi do you think this is?
That's also
years. We also don't know that at this point.
That's true. That's true.
Because I would have thought that thing would have been picked over by Jawas like immediately.
Mandalorian is 5 years after Jedi, right? That's what and this is at.
I thought it was 9.
So within a couple of years of it happening. I probably.
So you think he's been in there for a couple of years?
No. I mean, the whole storyline happens a couple of years.
Okay,
so we only have a time frame of a couple of years. It's not like he was in there for a decade or something. It's, I would say probably same day because he woke right up, and it seemed like it was a matter of breathing, which is why he grabbed the tube off the stormtrooper.
Yeah. Oh well, again, not to focus on missed opportunities, but it would have been cool if, a la like the Titanic, like they were like, guys laying all over this thing, because this thing just blew up. Not everyone would have been killed instantly. There'd be people laying in the sand. We could have shown yak face.
Yeah. Always a good opportunity. Missed opportunity when you don't show a yak face.
Well, they could finally bring back that toy of him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, but the wreckage of the Katana, him. So this is something that has kind of been semi-canon in the old way.
Yeah, it's not really a new story. It's just kind of like it's almost like the lava battle of Mustafar that we've heard it told a lot of times, and then this is like, oh yeah, everybody knows that that's what happens. Here's the official on-screen version of that. Except,
of course, no Dengar, who in the expanded universe was the one who helped pull his future best man out of the wreckage of the Sarlacc. So
that seriously hampers the odds that there will be a wedding in this season of Book of Boba Fett, and I'm disappointed. That was on my bingo card.
But this would be one of those things where you realize you were in a different timeline because you're like, wait a minute, where's Dengar? And they're like, Dengar, what are you talking about? Like Dengar's supposed to be here. So already
he's wearing a bow tie. Like what?
Someone clearly I think Ahsoka Tano went back in time and stopped Dengar's parents from meeting, and that's why he's slowly disappearing.
He's got the little photo, and they're all fading out.
Well, it'll be like a hologram. He would hold it up.
Yeah, he's holding a little hologram, and slowly Mr. and Mrs. Dengar are fading out.
It would be like energy bars, like you'd see the status bar gradually diminishing. So yeah, the Jawas we see stripping Boba Fett for parts.
And these are our Jawas from the Mandalorian, not our Jawas from they've got the red interior lights on their sandcrawler. So they're not the C-3PO Jawas, they're the Mandalorian Jawas, they're the Suga Jawas.
Right. Well, we know, of course, the C-3PO Jawas were all killed by Imperial stormtroopers looking for the droids.
That's the official story. We're sticking with it.
One thing, I'm sure you've encountered this same phenomenon, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have, if you've watched and listened to Star Wars many, many, many times. There doesn't seem to be a huge library of Jawa dialogue.
Right.
Like, I would say at least 50% of the lines here are all from Star Wars. From the Jawas talking. I mean, not the whole, not the whole show.
I'm assuming it's mostly tone and inflection.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder why someone should go back to that village where they found the original Jawa speakers and record more stuff.
That's how you end up with McClunky. When they add new dialogue, everybody makes fun of it. Well, granted, that was an extenuating circumstance, but
right, and that was adding dialogue into a scene that we already had seen already. Like, if it had been there all the whole time, no one would have thought twice about it.
That's true.
We'd all be talking about how cool it is that he says McClunky right before he dies. So,
right.
It's time. We need some new Jawa. It's like R2-D2 sounds. For some reason, they don't seem to be able to make new, convincing R2-D2 sounds, and he uses a lot of classic ones over again. So, anyway, let's get on that. Ben Burt, whoever's doing Ben Burt's job.
So then, after about 6 or 7 minutes, we get the title. That was a long, cold open.
Mm-hmm.
The long, cold open.
Cold opening.
It's my favorite album by the rock group Cinderella. We get the title, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Mm-hmm. Heinlein.
I was wondering if that was, referential or if and it doesn't seem like that much of a strange land. It's like he mostly knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's not really a strange. Yeah. Maybe inside the Sarlacc belly.
Well, he's already out by the time we get the title. Unless that was just referring to, maybe it's not him. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe Fennec Shand. Stranger in a Strange Shand.
Although she seems to know more about Tatooine stuff than he does.
Right.
Which is...
Who's the stranger here? Nobody?
Yeah.
The Rhodian. The Red Road. We'll get to him.
Yeah.
All right. Boba's left for dead and then picked up by some native Tatooiners.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where I noted that he spends most of the episode looking like he's a mutant from beneath the Planet of the Apes.
The movie or the planet?
Yeah. But we do get some good, I like seeing the native Tatooiners, and I like this is a good, they look better than the ones from the prequels, but not quite as good as the originals.
Yeah, and we just have to accept that it's like Chewbacca, like that.
Right.
Like, we just have to accept that it's never going to look the same as those original ones. We just got to roll with.
Yeah, lightning.
There's more off models native Tatooiners than there are on model. So now off model is the new on.
Is the model right?
Yeah, is the model.
This year's model. How many Elvis Costello references can we work into this episode? But I do like the black and red. Like, if you're gonna make them different, if they're not gonna look the same, make them look a little bit different. I like the kind of black and red theme with this tribe, and it makes sense that they're a different group of them. Therefore, they would like nothing's more boring than everybody in the whole planet or galaxy dressing the same. So I like the little details that they're still clearly native Tatooiners, but they are. They got some black and red.
And there's this is the first kind of little glimpse we get into and some kind of hierarchical system in native Tatooiner culture. Like, there's clearly like a leader who comes out and everyone's like looking at him like he's going to tell us what to do and so on.
And there's even like awkward teenagers in native Tatooiner culture, which is nice.
It made me wonder, because if you recall, we saw baby Tatooiners in Attack of the Clones, not just men, but women and children too.
Right, yeah.
So it made me wonder when kids graduate from their kid mask to... Because the kid we mostly saw in this one, whose name I believe is he basically seems to be wearing what looks to be an adult style mask.
So I think he's it's like a bar mitzvah. Like, he's just graduated to that not too long ago, and then he's been given these tasks he's the pimply faced
teenager of the tribe.
There was a kid who used to hang out at the store at Forbidden Planet in New York City that I used to work at, and there was a kid who was very much a lovable nerd kind of a kid. And then, like 1 week, he wasn't around much that week. And it's because that was his, bar mitzvah. He was like, doing, rehearsals and then did his thing. And then he came back in and we're like, oh, I didn't see you. He was like, oh, yeah, I had my bar mitzvah. I'm a man now. And he was clearly the same, like squeaky little kind of kid. But he was like, I'm a man now. And like he was, culturally, that's what it signifies. But like it was funny that he was exactly the same. Not at all. Like he still needed looking after very much. So I thought of him with this native Tatooiner here.
That's good.
But here's my next note is they can drink through those. Because the native Tatooiner chief comes out and he's got his like morning coffee and he's looking at what's going on and he takes a sip through his mask
hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and later on we see pimply faced teen do it too. When he drinks out of those.
Those gourds.
That makes sense in a way. I guess you'd want them to be as you wouldn't want to have to take it off to drink.
Yeah, I'm sure you went like Boba Fett, the Mandalorian had to take it off to eat and drink. That doesn't make sense, but they they don't really ever take them off as far as I can recall, right? So that makes sense that they would be. I've never seen it before, so
it's a bad design for a Mandalorian helmet that you're never supposed to take it off in front of people, and it doesn't have a hole to stuff food in or water.
It shows your commitment.
But that would also, to me, if I was Starbuck and I was arguing with the Mandalorian about how you're just in a cult, you don't even realize that this is not Mandalorian culture. Why wouldn't we have holes in our helmets if we're not meant to ever take them off?
Right. Yeah.
And then he'd be like, yeah, that's right.
No.
So,
well, he'd be like, you're a heretic, whatever. That's not the way.
It is the
way. He gets captured by the native Tatooiners and he's tied to a post. And then we got Red Rodian.
Red Rodian.
Red Rodian.
Have we, do we officially know, I was wondering, because I feel like I associate Red Rodians with the prequels. Like, with specifically with Tatooine. And it made me wonder if that was a result of being dried out on Tatooine. Like
they're
it's
all
almost
just
like
sunburned.
Yeah, they're all like sunburned. Although Greedo and Watto both are Watto.
Wald.
Greedo
and Wald
are both green, but maybe they just drank. So
we do see him in a bar. Not Wald.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see Greedo in a bar and he's green.
I think he is a drink. Is that what you're saying? I do like that. It's one of my favorite developments is the Rainbow Coalition of Rodians. Mm-hmm. The Rainbow Rodian Coalition, RRC. we need your support. Please donate today. But I love that we've got blonde Rodians, we got green ones, we got kind of bluish ones, we got red ones. I keep it up. I love that. Kind of like Twi'lek, same thing. We got different colors and different. I like that, seeing that variety in Aliens rather than just like, all right, let's trot out the same Dawn Post mask for everybody.
I wonder if we'll ever see it's funny that the first Twi'lek we ever met was Bib Fortuna, and he seems to be very much an outlier in regarding his head tubes and stuff. Yeah. So
they just made it, it's like Klingons, right? No, opposite. I was like, they just made it easier. Like they went with the easier prosthesis. It's the opposite of Klingons, I guess. The Klingons, they went with the more difficult as it went on. But
it's like the gorilla masks in Planet of the Apes, where the TV show versus the movie.
Right.
Anyway.
And all the background characters that they just gave them, like generics. But
I didn't care for Red Rodian's voice.
It was a little off. And close-ups on his face, it did seem a little bit like a mask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there were close, especially when you see his eyes, it's just like, oh, that's just a plastic mask. But
well, these guys
voice sounded a little processed and out of place. Didn't seem like it was coming from anything.
Yeah. This guy and the Gamorreans who we see later on, it made me wonder if like you're not supposed to see some of these things in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like seeing those Gamorreans in broad daylight was like, oh, no.
Put on a shirt. Come on. I would have loved to, like, it was like you had like spare clothes, kind of like the in Pulp Fiction, where they show up to get cleaned up after they show up at Harvey Keitel's house. Yeah, and then, so like I would have loved to seen a Rodian wearing a UC Santa Barbara Banana Slugs oversized T-shirt or something like that.
Or it would be like how they make those championship shirts for teams, and then when they don't make it to they give them to this African kids.
Oversized Sebulba Bunta Eve Classic championship shirt, 40
BBY.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we get like a real 1-2, not even 1-2. We get like a bunch of little tickles of familiarity in a row that we get. Red Rodian, which made me happy. And then cut back to, hey, wake up. We got to talk to people. Then we get this series of, which I think should have gone on longer and should have had more jokes in it, maybe. Because I love like an audition scene or like something where it's like a bunch of different. So it totally should have had a bunch more like goofy little criminals showing up and aliens showing up and being like, hey, Bob, like Watto, why not? But should have had people showing up and just being, like, all right, next, that kind of a thing as they do their tributes. But we do get a bunch of good ones. Including, well, first up, like we get, I didn't realize this until the end credits when I had to go back and look and like, what? And I looked it up on the Wikipedia that we get Matt Berry as 88, which again,
I recognize him. It's not 88.
So on the Wikipedia it said 88, I thought.
Oh, on the IMDb he's credited as UK2B.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know. Yeah, both raise interesting questions. Both possibilities. But Matt Berry, yes.
Like it completely, sure, logical. Like they, the people who are making this are fans of other things that we like, and we had Richard Ayoade as a protocol droid in The Mandalorian, and like but it still like this continues to be just kind of like this weird fever dream that seems like it seems like they're picking this out of my notes and making movies and television shows. I've said it a lot with Marvel, but then this seems like and I guess it's just, it's purely, we are not alone. We're not unique. We're not beautiful and unique snowflakes. That, Robert Rodriguez and Jon Favreau and Filoni to a certain extent, they're all just, guys kind of like us who grew up with the same toys and like the same TV shows, and they want to, put them together. Yeah. It's like, if I was making a TV show, sure, I'd get Matt Berry and Richard Ayoade and Clancy Brown and Amy Sedaris, and sure, put them all in there. And they're just similar thing. They grew up, they like the same shows and movies and same bits of Star Wars. So it makes sense, but it just feels really like, are you seeing this? Like, is everybody else getting the same one? Is it customized? Is it the kind of thing
wow.
Is it like a Waze where you punch it in and it's just like, who do you want to voice the?
It's like targeted ads to like, based on your demographic, we've compiled the perfect voice artist for this for this thing for you.
Yeah, it's like
if you're watching
getting
it in,
like Dane Cook or something.
Yeah,
like, I'm just getting, but no.
Well, aside from just always being glad to hear the dulcet tones of Matt Berry, sure. I was also glad that he played a robot. Mm-hmm. Because it means that we can have a scene where Stephen Toast is in the recording booth recording his dialogue for to play the robot, so we could have a tie-in with Toast of Tinseltown. And it means we can still get Matt Berry as a live action person in the show. So
that's true. He can still
do that. So
double duty.
But yes, and I love the way he says he gives it that Fortuna. He gives it that liquid that Matt Berry spin on it. Fortuna.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch those scenes specifically.
Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna.
He should have done. I would love to. I can only hope that there is a gag reel or something for this, because I would love to hear him doing just different, like, what? Bib Fortuna?
It'd be great if he was actually on set and was doing it, So you said that Morrison looks like one of the mutants from Under the Earth.
Yeah, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which I believe is set in Hoboken.
I'll go so far as to say he looks like Bob Hoskins playing one of the mutants.
There you go. Bob Hoskins in Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Bob Hoskins is Beneath the Planet of the
Apes. Although I don't know if we see it. I had a note for way later when it finally became enough that I had to write it down, but I'll mention it now.
Okay.
That I'm surprised that I did not, in the closing credits, see a starring credit for Boba Fett's teeth. Because Tamura Morrison's teeth seem to have been cosmetically upgraded since we last saw him, perhaps, or something. I don't know. But I spent a lot of time looking at his teeth. He's got, for somebody who spent a lot of, who's just digested and then left for dead in the desert, and then like a prisoner of an alien tribe for a good period of time. His teeth, man, they're stellar.
I'm going to credit that one with the Kaminoans. I think they're like, I know he said he didn't want any genetic modifications, but he didn't mean the teeth. Surely he wants perfect teeth for his boy. Let's not... Although you'd think clones would have had bad teeth because they only live for a short amount of time. So why would you devote any time?
It's like any other technology. Like they have different people working on different teams working on different parts of different genetic aspects. And the teeth team, they're above and beyond.
It's almost like a waste. It's like they're like, we're throwing away.
The waste team, they're terrible. They haven't. Have you seen Jabba out of the? I mean, have you seen Boba out of the suit a little bit? He's got a little spare tire there. They're working on it. They can't do much, but the teeth team.
It's funny, because I noticed in the they do the conceptual art at the end of the show, and there's one shot of how do you say his first name? Tamura Morrison. Mm-hmm. There's no K in there. It's like Tamuka Morrison. Anyway, they show him without his shirt off, and they show him all like ripped and like washboard abs and stuff.
We're not body shaming him at all. We're totally he's absolutely the right guy for this, and I don't mean that to be like, oh, look at him, he's fat, but he's understandably he's an older guy who's playing this part that sometimes they are writing action parts for him that aren't.
Well, also, just as an aside here, I mean, can you imagine him being like, everyone knows that if you get as far back as the prequels, everyone knew once you get involved in Star Wars, forever will it dominate your destiny. You know what I mean?
Right.
But imagine him being like this is almost like going to William Shatner in 1966 and saying, this thing you're doing right now, like it's going to be your meal ticket forever.
Yeah. Like it's going to be on your tombstone.
Back when he was doing Attack of the Clones, there was no such thing as TV shows based on Star Wars characters, let alone like out of all the characters in Attack of the Clones, you're like, guess who's going to have a TV show in 20 years from now? And it's the guy who plays.
Although like you had to know, but there were some, there were TV shows, there were little spin-off things,
Right, but not to the extent that.
Not to this extent, no. But I feel like that's, if anybody.
You could hope for a cameo every now and then, or if they do a commercial or something and they need you to come back to reference something, but a Lego perhaps. Anyway, good for him.
Yes. I fully support him in this, and I like him in it, and we can joke about his paunch because we're also middle-aged guys.
Yeah.
Back to pronunciation for a second. Trandoshan.
That's right. This is our first ever confirmed Trandoshans besides Bosk himself.
Yeah, and so we get pronunciation of the word Trandoshan, which I've always said Trandoshan because it's more fun. Trandoshan. But Trandoshan, sure. But then also then he speaks in basic. With a talking Trandoshan, and I do love that he brings
talking Trandoshan ? Exclamation point.
And I do love that he brings him, a bounty of Wookiee pelts, going back to the 12-inch Boba Fett action figure from Kenner from 1980 or so, 81, whatever year it was. The 12-inch figure came with braided Wookiee pelts. to wear around his shoulder. And so that's another nice little throwback there. It's very subtle and makes sense in everything that we know. The Trandoshans and the Wookiees are eternal enemies. Then we get a Twi'lek. We get a new Twi'lek, the assistant regional manager to the mayor of Mos Espa, which now it's in. Let's back up for a second. This is the Mos Espa. So Mos Espa is Jabba's palace in Mos Espa? Is it part of Mos Espa?
Maybe the suburbs of Mos Espa?
Could be. I don't know what the...
Well, first of all, the fact that it is Mos Espa, the same city we saw in Phantom
Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Right.
Because there was a lot of speculation because it looks very different than the Mos Espa we saw. It's in like a giant crater, this version of Mos Espa. This part of Mos Espa we see, let's put it that way.
Jabba's palace part or the town part?
No, like in the trailer, when the trailer came out, they showed like an aerial view of Mos Espa, and it looks like it's in like a giant crater.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people were speculating this was going to be a new city that we had never seen before. So it's interesting that it does turn out to be Mos Espa, which did not look like it was in a crater when we saw it.
Again, I think it's probably like a large, let's see, Mos Espa's spaceport settlement. Probably just a large, it's like the greater Mos Espa area.
Greater unincorporated Mos Espa.
Right. Although it does have a mayor. So it's small enough that it has a mayor, not a governor or a I don't know. But the mayor of Mos Espa, which we haven't seen yet. We see his delegate here. I hope that when we see the mayor of Mos Espa, it's very much like a classic kind of like the Poobah from the Mikado or something, like where he's very much kind of the, or what's his name from Jaws, like very much the kind of classic kind of, mayor-y type.
Yeah.
Or Mayor Shin from The Music Man.
The actor in this
stuffed suit.
Yeah. He is a recurring character on Veep, which I'm currently I'm in a rewatching. I think that's one of my all-time favorite shows, Veep.
Really?
Weird
No,
to
I've never
think
seen
that.
a minute of it.
But he plays a sleazy character on that show, so it's funny seeing him play basically a kind of similar type of like kowtowing, but also like not giving you what you want sort of thing. So,
well, yeah, it's funny. I looked him up because I was like, oh, I love that Twi'lek. Like, it's such a great scene, and I'm loving this. This is what I want out of a show like this.
But it's also funny, another comedic actor playing a
Well, then I looked him up. Apparently, he was in Strangers with Candy too.
Yeah, he was.
And so I was like, are they slowly working everybody from Strangers with Candy into this too?
Oh, that's right. That would be really funny.
It's like, with their work. Slowly, we're going to get everybody from I'm trying to think of which particular, like from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place and Strangers with Candy. Full casts are going to be on Star Wars shows by the time we're done.
Well, and also, I guess the IT crowd were working on
right. Well, both Garth Marenghi, Richard Ayoade and Matt Berry were in Garth Marenghi. So.
Oh, okay. Well, here's a question. Speaking of Bib, and maybe I've just been watching too much Godfather, but it seems weird to me that, Boba Fett steps in, kills Bib Fortuna, and then did Bib Fortuna have like a crew or anything? Like, how does Boba Fett know what okay, we know guys are coming in at 2:00 to give us tribute today. What? It seems odd that he would just kind of slip in and there would be no one. Like, who was Bib Fortuna's second in command who was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to go along with what this guy says now. So,
he probably shouldered, knowing Bib, he probably shouldered too much of the duties himself. And so it was, spread thin. He needed more delegation. He needed more to spread the power around a little bit. And since it was so centralized, it's easy for somebody to come in and just take the whole thing over and then be like, all right, look, you're in charge of this now.
Right. Like, does he even know what Like, does he have records of who are Jabba's people and stuff? Like, why would everyone keep paying him?
Well, why would everybody keep paying who? Keep paying Boba now? Well, because Boba's now, he's doing that. He's going out and being like, hey, Bib's out, I'm in.
But he's just hanging out in the palace, and people are showing up, and then they're like, oh, I'm here to give tribute to Jabba. And they're like, oh, no, it's Boba Fett now. And they're like, okay. Like, they'll just go in love with whoever's in charge.
Yeah. It's like if you, get a note that's like, oh, hey, now your car payment has been, handed from one company to another. Now you're paying these guys instead of these guys or whatever. Your loan has been, or something. Hey, Comcast is now Spectrum or something like that. You're like, all right, whatever. You just keep paying the same bills.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
it doesn't matter to you who's in charge as long as your service keeps running.
So when there's the scene where they go young. Well, there's one scene where the Jennifer Beals, another 80s flashback.
Another one where I was like, afterwards, looking at the credits, I'm like, what? Really?
Yeah. Right. If I didn't hear ahead of time that she was in it, I never would have recognized that. She should wear the patented sweatshirt if she wants people to know who she is.
There you go.
Do the line.
Yeah. So with that's a whole nother. So walking into that cantina essentially.
Yeah.
Was a whole nother thing there, because then they're playing. Not quite a cover of the Cantina band song. Mm-hmm. It's something that's like kind of reminiscent of it. Well, it's it's jizz. They're riffing on it. But as far as I can tell, that's Max Rebo. And did not Max Rebo perish horribly in flames just moments ago?
Well, I think he was on the cruiser, but we don't know if everyone died on it. I mean. If you weren't right by the blast, you could have gotten knocked away, and if you weren't right on top of it, you could have survived. Is it going to be his brother or something?
On the Wikipedia,
Dak Rebo.
Max Rebo then traveled aboard Jabba's sail barge to the Great Pit of Carkoon, and then New Republic. Following the destruction of the Katana, which Rebo survived, he played at Garsa Fwip's cantina in Mos Espa when Boba Fett and Fennec Shand arrived. It was like, that's again cool. That's but it seems like earlier I said, I don't need to know how Boba Fett survived. I just figured that he did. Whereas here it's like a little bit like, all right, well, Max Rebo's not the main character though. So like just to have him thrown in there seems lazy versus there's a big difference between lazy and like storytelling. I don't know. Yeah. But it's fine. I don't need to know how he survived.
Yeah. I kind of like it because it's the fact that he is the only surviving member of the Max Rebo band.
Well, it seems like it.
That this is kind of like the Leonard Skinner of like almost all the members died in this one. He was one of the few surviving members who died. It's very rock and roll to be. Yeah, he's the one who walked away, and he played a gig that night at the cantina. So he was probably glad to get rid of that dead weight. The rest of that band.
Well, I don't know. Well, the band had gotten too big, and they had backup singers and all this. It's like strip it down to its roots. Just him and a guitarist.
So, and we also see a
Biff guitarist.
Biff,
and then and a droid playing drums.
Yeah, which seems like cheating. Yeah. They shouldn't allow droids in bands, especially to play drums. That's like a drum
machine. It's like that's fine, but it's a little bit odd. Well, and then we also see
FX7 would be a good drummer, I bet.
Oh yeah. We also see what's his? Oh, I've forgotten his name. I thought it was Rex, but Rex is the clone trooper. Who's the Star Tours robot?
Oh right, yeah. The Pee Wee Herman voice, the Paul Rubens.
Yeah, what's his name? Oh yeah, RX-24. Rex. It was
RX. Yeah.
Who seems to be, again, it's a droid of that type is on Was he DJing or was he bartending? What was he doing there?
I don't recall.
Because he always
they wouldn't need a DJ. They have a live band.
They have a live band, but I've been to some bars where it doesn't seem like there's no. If they can advertise, hey, we got a live band and we got a DJ, let's just put them all both on at the same time. Who cares? I'm looking, trying to see what if there's any notes about that, but it seems like he was in there too, which is nice. Again, a nice little between all the tributes. There was an Aqualish tribute we didn't even mention, although they did. Kind of a little bit of a joke, whatever, about like, where he does this whole thing, and then Boba Fett's like, "Did you catch any of that?" Like, making it that like, oh, Aqualish is hard to understand language, which, again, yields credence to the what is it, Robot Chicken or whatever that did the sketch with like him being completely mistranslated by Greg Evigan.
Also, I want to call attention to the fact that this is yet another variation on Aqualish hands. It's not anyway.
Again, hey, I like to see different colored Rhodians and Twi'leks. Sure, why not do eyes and hands? That's how they differentiate in Aqualish.
Yeah.
So then they're walking around the town, and two things I do not like back to back. Here we go. Back
Shields?
to back. No, three things. So sorry.
Ninjas?
Four things we got. No. First, they're walking around, and I was like, I didn't need those MIT robots. The real life MIT robots, the ones that they're creepy and they walk around. Yeah. They had a bunch of those walking around, which is, I guess I'd rather see like an MIT robot with a costume on than seeing, those little CGI flying things from the special editions. I was like,
well, is your objection to those things, or just putting them into the special edition?
What?
Do you object to those floating droids on principle, or just because they were slathered all over the special edition, and they look, they're distracting and fake, and there's like, it's like, hey, look at me, like, right. while it's like, one of the most iconic scenes in the whole movie, like, these aren't the droids you're looking for, but it's like, So it's putting them in the special edition that you're,
yeah. Mostly.
Got it.
It's how distracting they are. It's how they're used.
Yeah. Because like the Uba, the Pantene green machine is also a floating thing.
That's
but
fine.
Yeah. So
it's how they're used.
So what else don't you like? You don't like the MIT machines?
Didn't like seeing the MIT robots because it took me out of it. Because I'm like, that's just the MIT robot. That's just it's like a weird celebrity cameo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't remind me I'm going to be killed by those robots.
Yeah, well, just don't kick them over. And then also, when in that kind of like overview thing, there is a Tarzan yell mixed into the sound.
Really?
Yeah, like as they go across. I'm pretty, like I had my monitors in, so I'm pretty sure I heard it, but go back and listen to as they go across, kind of mixed into all that. You hear like, oh, my voice is a little shot, so I can't do it. But there was a Tarzan yell mixed into that the hustle and bustle of Mos Espa, which I also didn't like. And then my next note was like, hey, just when I was thinking, hey, I love the tone of this. And it's all just people like, it's like intrigue and people talking about, like the structure of, the crime lord stuff. And it's kind of, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, ninjas with energy shields. I'm like, okay. They just jump out of nowhere and they have a whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then mercifully it was, relatively short-lived. It didn't go on for too long, but
No, it did go on for too long, but you're right.
It did, yeah. But I mean, but not... but and then it led to the rooftop chase was nice. I like that part. That was exciting. But they should have just had them. Like if they would have just pot shot from the rooftop and then have her chase them down. Like that's I'm not against action sequences, but it's just like it's nothing new and it's a lot of just trite nonsense and it's boring.
Yeah,
but whatever.
I guess in not their defense. But in their defense, the show is aimed at a family audience, not necessarily at, adult, jaded Star Wars fans. Because I imagine if you're a kid, you love the fight scenes.
Yeah, but if you're a kid, you probably shouldn't be watching this show, right? What's it rated?
Oh, come on. It's on Disney Plus. You really don't think kids are watching the show? Yeah. It's about Boba Fett, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I guess so. What is it rated? Does it say?
Do they rate things on Disney?
I think so, right?
I think it's for cultural sensitivity.
If I went in as my kid's account on Disney Plus, I wouldn't have access to this. I'm sure.
But nonetheless, kids are watching it.
I'm sure, yes.
Well, speaking of fight scenes, so they get dragged out. The Boba Fett and the Red Rodian get dragged out into the desert with it's a weird sequence. I'm not sure what is supposed to be going on there. They drag them out to the middle of the desert so they can dig for these water rocks.
Yeah, it seems, I guess it makes sense. Like they give this teenage kid, the teenage native Tatooiner is basically like, all right, hey, go pick up some gourds or rocks or whatever they are.
Bring these two guys to dig for you.
And yeah, you get these two, like we have these two prisoners.
Yeah.
Take these guys out and have them find water rocks and come back. That's the, it kind of makes sense to me, that they would have, if they have these prisoners when at, slave labor. At first, when he was telling them to dig, I thought it was going to be like a cliche, especially because Robert Rodriguez, it would seem like is he going to have them like dig their own graves or something?
Right.
But no, they're just digging for water rocks or gourds. I thought it was more like a gourd, but either way, it's odd that it would grow like that. But maybe I'm sure there's some natural.
Well, it seemed odd to me that it was just kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, do they not mark out where, okay, these are where we find these?
Well, I think they went to that spot specifically, right?
Right. But it didn't seem like it was just kind of in the middle of a sand dune.
Well, it wasn't. You don't live there. You don't know. You can't tell the differences.
That's true. Yeah. But also, I don't know, it just seemed, I don't know. Like, they dug 6 inches underground. We found one of these things. Like, how? I don't know. Anyway, but then they fight a giant 4-armed alien.
Then they unleash the Kraken.
Well, I thought you would have liked it because to me it evoked the Martians in the Mars, the John Carter books, because they're 4-armed aliens.
Out of nowhere, there's just this, like, I don't know, this kind of. It's got all the problems with modern CGI animal, creatures where it's like flexing and roaring and showing off instead of acting like an animal.
Yeah. You can act like an animal.
Right. And that was weird. Like I was like, why is there like a Kraken buried under the sand? Just like, like you just said, like 6 inches under the sand.
He lives on those gourds,
house.
I guess.
You know what I mean? There's somebody's house over there. And here's I don't know. And like, wouldn't, I don't know. It seemed out of place to me.
Yeah.
Completely. The creature in that habitat, and that it's like, all right, it's right next to somebody's house. And I understand maybe if they had gotten the gourds and they were walking back and they encountered one somehow or something like that, I would have liked it a little bit better, but it seemed, I don't know. It seems like, we need another action scene right here. Let's throw it in there. But then it kind of ties in with how Boba earns the respect of the native Tatooiners that he's living with.
I think the sequence would have been stronger if they established that in order to get those gourds, there was the risk of that monster. And that's why they were...
Like the Suga.
Yeah, kind of. It's a similar type of thing. So
you needed a Suga episode.
But I had mixed feelings. I thought the fact that this monster was living right there was dumb, that they just dug it up somehow. The creature itself, you didn't mind. It looked kind of Harryhausen, I guess, like you said, like the Kraken. The head looked very Harryhausen-esque, and so and the Rodian gets killed, right?
The Rodian, as far as we know, it seems like he gets like. When we first met him, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna die in this episode." I knew that, and
he's a red shirt
Rodian. Yeah, and that I kept thinking that he was gonna die in different ways. Like when they were like, "All right, we can escape." Boba has that whole thing with like, "Hey, we can escape," and then instead he alerts the guards, and then there was that. Then when they come to take Boba to do that thing, I thought maybe he was gonna. That's where they were gonna take Boba and leave the Red Rodian out to die, or let the dog eat him or something like that. Then they took them both out to dig up water rocks, and then in fighting the Kraken, he seems to get tossed around, and I totally thought he was gonna have he was going to become dismembered. And so, it was like something gnarly was going to happen to him, but he just kind of got bonked and was left for dead. So maybe he'll come back. Maybe he's that's the whole premise of the show is based on somebody
Yeah.
Left for dead in the desert, coming back. Now I'm going to write my story, the Book of Red Rodian.
There'll be all this like, oh, we all thought he was gonna be so cool, and then he just got killed really quick by that creature, and then 20 years from now someone will be like, you know what, I'm gonna redeem Red Rodian. We're gonna do a whole series about him.
Exactly. And you'll learn why he was alerting the guards, because he knew it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
Because
the actor will be all fat. We'll be all making fun of him.
We're not making fun of him. We're commiserating.
He
I
also
had a lot of pumpkin pie yesterday. I'm like, dude, I get it.
Boba Fett kills the Ray Harryhausen monster by choking it with a chain, which is of course ring theory for Leia killing Jabba with a chain earlier.
Right. Which he didn't see because he was already being digested, right?
Yeah. Although he probably could access the sail barge's security footage through his helmet.
Maybe.
And so that's probably what gave him.
Backs up to the cloud, or it probably got torched.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I think it got backed
like
up to the Cloud City.
But I did like that moment where they go, like, the little social structure of the native Tatooiners, and the fact that it is a pimply faced teen, and the chief kind of knows that it's his it's his awkward son. And then when he comes back and he's all excited, and the chief kind of, who had been kind of keeping an eye on Boba Fett, just goes over and like offers him basically his cup of coffee, and it's just like, thanks. I like that little moment.
It's funny. It's appropriate that you would like that moment, because I wrote down that scene reminded me the most of the Star Wars Holiday Special, where it's just like 3 minutes of just two native Tatooiners talking to each other, and it's just like, it's just like, why am I listening to this? Say what you will, it's a beautiful culture, but their vocals they're not easy on the ear. I want to hear singing. I want to hear native Tatooiners singing. It's like that throat, right. The thing the Mongols.
Now that's what I call native Tatooiner music.
Music in quotes.
Yeah, that's what you call music. I do. I liked how much of, again, it's like a matter of trust. Sorry, that's not an Elvis Costello song, but
maybe right.
The audience is trusted with a lot of stuff. That if this was a little bit more, and it is a very corporate beast. It's a very corporate production, but if it was a little more hands-on, if there was a little maybe it's just the nature of Lucasfilm being basically like a wholly owned subsidiary almost of Lucasfilm being its own beast within Disney, and then the kind of tradition that they have of allowing some free reign with creativity with its creators. Which again we've seen, in the past with the sequel movies, etc. We've seen some what we've perceived to be short leashes as far as creativity and choices go, but could be track record too. It could be like, all right, well, Mandalorian, everybody loves the Mandalorian. These guys have done great, so just allowing them to make a show like that, it's 7 minutes of flashback with very little dialogue, or I don't know if there's any dialogue in the first, 10 minutes of the movie, of the episode rather. And to have a lot of, just like they did in Mandalorian, have like these episodes with a lot of alien dialogue that's not subtitled, and like just we tell the story, and it's fun. There's very little dialogue in this, and relatively, even though we complained about it, and I understand it's got to be there, but whatever. But like, not a huge amount of fight sequences. So like, you don't have a ton of dialogue, you don't have a ton of fight sequences, but you're still telling a compelling story. And I was pleasantly surprised by that across the board. Like I was not as hyped as everybody else was for this show. I thought it would be like, oh, it'll be fun, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't wait for the Book of Boba Fett. It's just like, it'll be a fun show. And it was. I was like, oh, all right. They like that was better than I was expecting, and it was very, very similar in tone to what we've come to expect from The Mandalorian, and that kind of a thing. And it's if you just keep throwing an episode like this out there of Star Wars every week, I'm not going to complain. It's like a fun, playing in Star Wars for an hour once a week is absolutely, I'm here for it.
Well, it sounds like the first episode, we both thought it was pretty good.
Did you? I didn't.
Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was, it feels like a smaller scale in a way.
Right.
I guess the Mandalorian was kind of like that too, but
Mandalorian had more kind of like
from the start, it's
galaxy spanning a little bit, planet to planet, whereas this is like set in one place.
So I'm curious to see where it goes.
I was going to ask you, as many listeners may know, you do a show called The Godfather Minute with your brother. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And has that doing a show about the mob, the mafia, which obviously doesn't exist, but it's a fictional crime syndicate like that. Has that influenced your viewing of this? Are you expecting different things? Are you appreciating different things watching a show about a fictional crime syndicate set in space?
Well, I think the difference is more just that The Godfather is a film for adults. Mm. And even then, I'm sure it's not a realistic portrayal of how the mob works.
Right.
In terms of like, I don't go in with this. Like I said, it's more like you kind of have to check your brain at the door because you just can't think like in terms of like, well, where was Bib Fortuna's infrastructure? And maybe they're just not showing it that he has. But again, it's kind of like if kids were playing with toys, you're like, okay, I'm the boss now, and everyone's just like, okay, yeah, he's the boss now. A kid wouldn't think, well, what are the second in command of Bib Fortuna? He'll probably want to take over, and then that will be the conflict. It's a simplified, thing. And so, I'm not complaining. It's,
but
it's consistent with Star Wars. So, for instance, in A New Hope, Jabba the Hutt, the head of the whole crime family, personally went to the docking bay to talk to Han Solo about his.
You just said a whole bunch of things that I don't understand. What's A New Hope? And Jabba the Hutt was the first time we saw him was in Return of the Jedi.
Well, no, but in the deleted scene, there was where I'm
trying to squeeze into because wasn't that guy's name Declan something too, the actor who played Jabba the Hutt originally?
Declan McManus. Yeah.
Right. I was trying to squeeze in one more Elvis Costello there.
But obviously the Godfather doesn't have cool looking aliens and spaceships and stuff in it, so it's a trade-off.
Declan Mulholland was the original actor who played Jabba.
Still alive?
No, sorry. Sadly passed.
Can't bring him back for that cameo I wanted.
Shortly after the release of The Phantom Menace, he passed away, which is interesting.
Killed him.
Is that he saw probably on screen. He's like, that's Jabba. But yes, yeah, I enjoyed it. Looking forward to more of it. Again, like it's not. I don't have it built up as like, oh, this is going to be the big thing. This is going to, the weight of the franchise, the weight of the, Star Wars concept of Star Wars, the entertainment juggernaut that is Star Wars is not fully resting on this for me. It's just like, oh, it'll be a fun Star Wars thing to be on once a week for the next, month or two.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, all right then. I guess that'll wrap up Chapter 1 of the Book of Boba Fett.
Chapter 1. Stranger in a What do we, any guesses what we're going to see next? Want to do some our speculation is always wrong. Well, mine is always wrong. I think you had a couple of hits last for the Mandalorian.
Well, you said Sarlacc. We got that.
Right. Here, I have one that I want to throw in there.
What?
Because we did flash back to Petronaki Arena and briefly Camino, just in terms of setting up his character, it did make me think, why did Boba, as far as we know, why has he never gone and requested a clone of himself? Why doesn't he want to pass on what he has learned? So I think we may see a new Fett, a third Fett.
Wow.
Andy Fett. Roger Fett. No. Milton Fett.
Core Fett. Little Red
Core Fett. Yes.
Well, I'd like to say, I thought you were going to say that you wanted to see Lama Su and the other cloners.
Could be.
So
Tonwee.
I'd like to see them. Yeah. Tonwee is here, from what I understand.
That would be an awesome. So let's see if we can get. He sends out a message to Kamino to say, "Hey, bring my that clone thing that I had ordered that was on ice. Send him over." And then
give him the teeth package. I decided I do want the teeth package after all that,
because it's worked out for me. I got to tell you, I was in the desert. I look like a mutant from under the earth, but my teeth perfect.
Sarlacc proof.
Yeah. But so he sends out a message to Kamino saying, "Hey, send my give me my boy," and Tonwee personally delivers the clone. And then maybe we'll get to hear Matt Berry saying Tonwee's here as 88. That's pie in the sky. That's a wish list item.
I wanted to hear Boba Fett say it again. I wanted to hear him say,
Tonwee's here. Like he's like surprised by her, in his office.
Like, Tonwee's here? Damn, Tonwee's here? That's it. That's what it's
right, there you go. And they could bring back, Daniel Logan is friendly with the franchise. He's down to do stuff. So they could bring him back as he's, I think 30 something now, probably.
Sheesh.
20, 30s, who knows?
Yeah.
So they could bring him back as young man Fett.
I hope they bring him back at least for a flashback showing some of the things that he did while he was in between, during the Imperial reign. I want to see Daniel Logan as Boba Fett.
Also, I hope Boba Fett gets to sing a song, and he's dubbed by Chris Jackson, because that's Moana. He was the main voice of Moana's dad, but when he's singing, it's Chris Jackson in Moana. So I hope that happens again here.
And they'll sing.
Plus, I just want to hear him sing a song.
They'll sing the Wings classic Fett. Woo, woo, woo.
Exactly.
All right.
On that note,
cornball note, thanks everyone for listening, and don't forget to is there anything else? I'm totally out of practice. This is what we remind people about.
As we mentioned our Patreon briefly, you can get our regular thing there on weekend edition episodes every week, and it helps support the show. We keep it running. If you wanted to check out our coverage of Mandalorian, if you're hearing this and you're like, hey, how come these guys are just jumping in with Book of Boba Fett? We did a whole 2 seasons of the Mandalorian, which is on a separate feed. We're thinking about maybe blending that back into this main feed, but for now, it's its own thing. Mandalorian, I think .com will take you there, but you could also just look in your podcast finder for the Mandalorian, and it'll say, did you mean the Mandalorian? And be like, no. And on Facebook, we're at the Star Wars Minute Listener Society, and you can go to Twitter and Instagram. We are Star Wars Minute on Twitter, the Star Wars Minute on Instagram, and TikTok. But we've only posted, I think, 1 TikTok. So
TikTok, you do stop.
We did. But yes, keep an eye out for us.
And keep an eye out for us here on the next Star Wars Minute.